Corey Brada from the Hawkeye of the Storm here live from the Iowa State Fair. As you can see in the background, lots of fun activities. It's a hot day out here, but I'm here to talk about BTN's visit to Iowa City. Jerry DiNardo, Dave Rebs, and Howard Griffith and the crew stopping by on their annual stop to Iowa City during fall camp. A few notes from their visit yesterday, and always insightful little tidbits that we gather. One being Jerry DiNardo's comments on the offensive line. Of course, Jerry DiNardo is a former coordinator, understands what it takes to be successful at the Power 5 level, so I usually listen a little bit more closely when he says things than opposed to maybe a Howard Griffith. He talked about the O-line being deeper, more athletic, and he also included the D-line being deeper, more athletic. And here's another position I thought was interesting we keep hearing about, and that's linebacker. I've talked about questions I have at the linebacker position due to the losses of Jack Campbell and Seth Benson, but they get Jay Higgins back, and of course Nick Jackson for Virginia. The BTN crew is very impressed with the maturity of that linebacker room, and Kirk Ferentz has raved about Jay Higgins. In fact, Kirk was quoted as saying, "We love Jay Higgins." So that's an indication, especially when you lose a guy like Jack Campbell. Kirk Ferentz is high on Jay Higgins to take over that role. Jerry DiNardo was asked about concerns for this team, specifically on defense. The only thing he came up with was potentially the defensive backfield, and I think he hit the nail on the head when he said if Iowa's defense breaks down, it's usually on the back end. And we've talked in the past on this very channel about some of the struggles Iowa's had at staying healthy at cornerback. That would be my biggest concern after linebacker depth is cornerback depth, and I'm probably beginning to not worry more, but be more concerned with cornerback than linebacker, specifically as it relates to depth, because what happens after Cooper DeJean and Jamari Harris go down? We hope they don't, but is Deshaun Lee ready? Is TJ Hall ready? Of course, he struggled at times last year. They've got some young prospects, but that is a question mark that Jerry DiNardo brought up. Howard Griffith raved about Caleb Johnson, not only on offense as a running back, but also in special teams. My guess is that they're starting to work more special teams, kick return into camp, and that told me that he's probably handling those duties as he did much of last season. One note, Jerry DiNardo was quoted as saying the offense is going to be better, which it's almost like, well, you're kind of making the safest statement known to man, because how could it not be better than almost dead last in all the FBS? One thing that was a little bit irritating that Jerry DiNardo said was he was talking about the Iowa offense last year, and this is a quote, he said, they were playing complementary football to a really good defense. Sometimes I think these TV network crew guys maybe add a little fluff in there. That's the most ridiculous comment I've ever made. I like Jerry DiNardo. It's nothing against Jerry DiNardo. But the idea that Iowa's 130th ranked offense in the FBS was complementing the defense is absurd. The defense and special teams units, as we well know, had to overcome horrendous play from the offensive unit. A couple more notes here. Kirk Ferentz was interviewed. He's been pleased with maturity. It was consistent with what we talked to him at Media Day about. He's pleased with leadership on this team. They lost a lot of leadership with Jack Campbell, Sam Laporta, and those guys last year. He was asked about what he believes to be the biggest improvement so far this fall camp, and he doubled down on that offensive line. So although they didn't look great during the open scrimmage at Kids Day, he is doubling down on that unit. He did make an interesting quote. Here's a comment about wins, because we always talk about what the standard at Iowa is and what Kirk Ferentz is satisfied with. He said, talking about last year winning 8 games, of course 7 games in the regular season, 8 games total, he said 8 is not terrible, but it's not the bar we set. So that's encouraging to hear him say that. Obviously they don't want to go 7-5, but when you see a contract for Brian Ferentz that stipulates a 7-game minimum, that's obviously a concern. Talking about Cade McNamara's health, Kirk Ferentz said, and I quote, "Cade will be back. They're hopeful to get him back next week. He's got a quad strain, and they're dealing gently with the senior quarterback. His health is of utmost importance." Noah Shannon is also back. He's been dealing with a shoulder injury. Noah Shannon sat out the Kids Day Open practice. He is back now as well. And Kirk Ferentz made important note here, reconfirmed to everybody that didn't know. Noah Shannon, although he's currently under investigation for betting, he's been held out due to an injury, not due to betting, and he has not broken any laws, according to Kirk Ferentz. Cooper DeJean also was back on the field. It was good to see him in some film. And one thing, Jerry DiNardo, one final note, which is encouraging because we know how depth is always a concern at a developmental program like Iowa. Injuries have been a problem the last 2 camps. They don't appear to be nearly as big of an issue so far this year. Jerry DiNardo and said, and I quote, "There were very few people on the ground today." And he said that's an indication to him that this is not only a good team, but an athletic team. Good news if you're Iowa, because they need that first and second string, those first and second string units to be healthy headed into the season. We'll be here throughout the day here at the Iowa State Fair. If you see us here, and I'm going to create a YouTube short and throw it out there as well. If you see us here over the next few hours, you're out here Saturday afternoon, the first person to come up to me and say hi is going to get 2 tickets to the Iowa State Fair to use. I guess tomorrow is the last day of the fair. 2 tickets and a parking pass. If you're here and you see me, give me a shout out, and we'd love to hear from you. Again, Corey Brada from the Hawkeye of the Storm. We'll talk to you soon.